Hi everyone, this is Miss Casey, and today we are going to be talking about our next book for our grade 3 through 5 reading and art class. The book that we're going to be talking about is Holes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this book. I know it was a long read, but this project is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be learning about a special character, not a main character, but a special character from our book, and we're going to be doing a project based on our yellow-spotted lizard, so that's going to be fun. We'll also throw in some fun facts about actual lizards because yellow-spotted lizards are not real. They're part of the fictional book from the story. And so, but we'll have a lot of fun with our yellow-spotted lizard drawing and painting. And so just as much as you guys hopefully enjoyed the book, I hope you enjoyed this project. Okay, so this is the project that we're going to be learning how to do today. Again, this is based on the book Holes. And so we have our sample. I'm going to be using watercolors for our base layer and then color pencils for shading and extra details on our subject, which is the yellow-spotted lizard. And so that's what I'm going to be teaching you in today's project. You can use whatever materials you have on hand if you do not have these exact same materials. And so with that, we're going to start by going over our practice draw. Okay, so we want to start with our practice draw and get our main basic shapes down, and then we're going to go into a final draw. So our practice draw is just going to kind of map out how big and where things should go. And then our final draw is going to be using those same basic shapes, but then we're going to go in and add a little bit more detail for our yellow-spotted lizard and our background. All right, so go ahead and grab a practice paper so we can get started with our practice draw. So you can use for your practice draw any paper, any extra kind of paper that you have. It can be scratch paper, it can be computer paper, sketchbook paper. That's totally up to you and what you'd like to use. So again, this is going to be our practice draw. Let me go ahead and get my practice paper out. You guys are going to be using a pencil. I'm going to use a Sharpie so that way you can see my lines much better. Okay, so we're going to start with our basic shapes for our lizard. So what we're going to start with first is toward the middle, but on the left just a little bit, we are going to draw a circle for the head. Now our lizard should be the main subject, so we want to make this as big as possible. Okay, so we're going to draw a circle for the head just to the left side of our middle section of our paper. Once you have the circle for the head, our lizard, just like we have been described with in the book, but also if you've been able to see the movie, you'll know kind of a better idea of the yellow-spotted lizard in a better description and image in your head. But our yellow-spotted lizard has this kind of hooded cape or part of the neck that comes out when it is about to attack. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this back in and show you. We have this area right around the neck that kind of flares out when it is ready to attack or when it is feeling like it is being preyed upon. So with that said, we are going to add an extra shape right around the head for that piece around the neck. So right above the circle for the head, you're going to draw an oval that comes from the top and around and back to the top of the head. Okay, now this is about a medium-sized oval. As you can see, it is much bigger than our head. However, if you would like to make that a very big detail, mine is pretty big, but it's not humongous. It doesn't come all the way out here. But if you would like to kind of exaggerate that oval just a little bit, you can definitely do that. But once you have that oval for the outer part of the head, then we're going to go underneath that and we're going to draw another oval, and this is going to be for the body. Okay, so it's going to come down. It's going to be almost about the same size as this first oval that we have around the head. Just tilt it a little bit at a slant. And so these are going to be our main basic shapes for our lizard. We have the circle for the head. We have this outer oval for the outside of the neck, the area that flares out. And then we have this bottom oval for the rest of the body. Of course, we need to add legs and tail, but this is just for our practice draw, so don't worry about adding any details just yet. Now we're going to figure out where exactly our lizard is compared to the hole that is nearby, because these lizards like to hide in the holes, get some shade, and so we are going to add its habitat, where they live, according to the book. Okay, so we want to start by drawing an oval off to the right side next to our lizard here. This is going to be the opening of our oval. Now, depending on how you're looking at this, the perspective that you have from the angle, that's going to determine how wide or thin that opening is. Now, from my sample here, this lizard is kind of looking up at the viewer, us, and so we are going to be looking down. So our hole is going to be a little bit bigger in this one. However, if you would like to make that a little bit smaller, that could look as if you are looking at it in a little bit more at an eye level. And so that's how you can determine how big or small to make that hole. I recommend keeping it a little bit bigger, not too thin. So this would be a good size, or you can make it just a little bit bigger if you'd like. And then once you have that inner oval for the hole, then you're going to draw another oval just about the same shape, right around, just a little larger. And that is going to be for the outside, a little part of the dirt that kind of gathers around as the kids are, maybe digging their holes, if that's the scene that we're creating, or maybe, if this lizard dug the hole itself. However the hole was created, there's usually a big pile of dirt that kind of surrounds it. And so that's what this outer oval is going to be. Okay. But now that we have our basic shapes, we're going to go ahead and just leave our practice draw at that. I know it looks a little funny because it's just shapes put together, but this is just to map out how big and where our subjects are going to go. So our lizard is going to be off to the left, nice and big, and then the hole is going to be over to the right, again, nice and big. Don't worry, we will add in the tail and the legs as we get into our final draw. Okay, but now that we have an idea of where and how big these should be placed, we're going to go ahead and move on to our final draw. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my final draw paper. Now, before we actually start our final draw, we're going to take some time and we're going to actually talk about our chart here. We're going to do the same steps that we did from our practice draw. We're going to go ahead and draw those basic shapes again. And then once we have our basic shapes, we're going to add in a little bit more of some contour for our lizard to kind of get an idea of where exactly the whole lizard is going to be. And then once we have that, we are going to start taking a look at our story structure chart, talking over some of those main points, and then adding in those main points to our picture as you would like or as you feel is necessary. Okay, that part is totally up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how. All right, you guys, so for our final draw, just like I said, we are going to be doing the same thing that we did for our practice draw, just to map out where and how big our subjects are going to be. So let's start with the basic shapes of our lizard. Now I'm going to actually start this practice or this basic shapes in a different colored marker because these guidelines, these basic shapes are usually going to be erased once we add the contour or the main lines of our subjects, our lizard. And so I don't want you guys to get too confused with all of those extra lines. So I'm going to be using an orange marker to go over the basic shapes. And then I will bring back our Sharpie, which you should be using a pencil for all of this. But I'm going to take the Sharpie and I'm going to then only start drawing the lines that you want to keep. So the orange lines are eventually going to be lines that you want to erase. I'll go over that again as we draw and we get to that area and that space that you need to erase. So, basic shapes. I'm going to start with my orange. You are going to be using a pencil. Again, make sure you are only using a pencil. Okay, so for our start of our lizard, we are going to draw a circle for the head. So you're going to go toward the left side of your paper in the middle and draw a circle for the head. Then, once you have that circle, you're going to go from the top of that circle and draw an outer oval for that outer area that the lizard has around its neck and it flares out. Again, you want that oval to kind of be pretty big, and you can make that a little bit bigger if you'd prefer. And then we're going to make about the same size of the oval for the body, but this time the oval should be a little slanted. Okay, so we're going to start underneath the oval that we just drew, and you're going to draw an oval that comes around and ends on the other side of the outer oval from the head. Alrighty, so once you have those basic shapes for the lizard, next we're going to come over to the right side and we're going to draw an oval for the opening of the hole that the lizard lives in. And then right outside of that, you're going to draw an even bigger oval for the outside of the hole where the dirt kind of piles up. All right, now once you have all of those basic shapes, go ahead and hold on to your pencil. I'm actually going to start taking my Sharpie now. You should keep continuing with the pencil, okay? But now I'm going to show you the rest of our drawing steps so that way we can know what lines we need to erase. Okay, so now that we have the head, the outer oval, and the body, the oval for the body, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to draw the contour lines for the rest of our lizard shapes. I'm not going to go into any detail yet, just the rest of the body. Okay, so from the back of this oval for the body, you're going to go ahead and you're going to continue from the back of that line, and you're going to come up, draw a little swirl like a backwards S. That's going to be for the front of the tail. Then we're going to make the very tip of the tail have a little point. You can round it out or make it super pointy. And then you're going to just bring that back following the first S that you made, and then bring that down almost like it's connecting, going to connect right back to the bottom of that oval for the body. But don't connect it just yet. If you do, that's okay. You can go ahead and just erase a little bit of the space in between, because we're going to leave a little space for the feet. So next I'm going to show you how to draw those feet. So we're going to start inside of our oval this time, and we're going to just draw a little curve that kind of matches the left side of our oval. Just a curve. Okay, and then we're going to bring a line from the middle of that curve that comes outside of the body, comes over to the end of the tail that we just drew, and then you're going to curve it around and out. That's going to be for the back of our leg over here. And then we're going to start drawing some of those little toes or claws, and we're going to just bring it in and out, kind of like a zigzag, out, in, out, in. And you can make these as pointy or as round as you would like, depending on if you have seen lizards yourself with experience. You can draw your lizard the way that you would like, following the steps that I'm doing. So if you have a different way that you would like to draw the tail, go ahead and do that. If you have a different way that you would like to draw the legs, you can do that as well, but still follow along with the steps that we're going in. Okay? So now that I have the front toes for the leg, I'm going to bring that back up and into the body. All right. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and curve this around and down. So it comes up and then back down, kind of like a rainbow. And then we're going to bring that back up into the body. Okay, so we have this big leg over here. All right, and then we're going to draw our front leg on the right side. Okay, So now what we're going to do is we're going to start inside the body again. And for the back of this leg, we're going to draw a curved line like a letter C that comes from the inside of the body and down just a little bit below the body. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we are going to draw the bottom little toes again, just like we did here. So you're going to start that out and then in, and again, these bottom toes can be as pointy or curved as you would like. Out and in, out and in. Okay? And then now what I'm going to do is just another few zigzags. And then I'm going to bring that up just above this bottom body line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curved line just past that line I just drew and bring it up to the middle of the body. All right. So now that I have that line, I want to actually bring this one up all the way to the very bottom of the head. So now that I have this line, I'm going to go ahead and draw the belly, the bottom of our body. So you want that to kind of match up to the bottom of the tail where this ended. So you can draw an imaginary line through your legs. You don't want to draw through them, but you can imagine that line continuing through. And then you're going to meet in the middle between those two legs. You're going to draw a curved line for the bottom of the belly. And then come up, meet on the other side, and you're going to bring this curved line up to touch the right side of that oval we drew for the body. And you're going to keep bringing that up just a little. And once you reach a little toward the top of where the head is, then you're going to curve it out and bring it up to the bottom of the head. All right, now we have one more leg, and this leg is in the back. There are usually 4 legs lizards have. We have 1, 2 for this right side of the lizard. And then we're going to draw one leg that's popping out from the front, but that other back leg is on the other side, therefore we cannot see it. So we're not going to draw it. All right, so for this leg over here, we're just going to draw a line that comes down and out, like a letter L. And then our next leg is going to start out a little bit wider. So we're going to start by touching the bottom of the head here and down. So you start out wide and come in a little bit at an angle. And then we're going to draw some little toes. And that's kind of turned to the left side. So we don't really see them spread out as much as we see this. They're kind of clumped together. All right. So now that we have the basic shapes and we've drawn our contour around those basic shapes, next what we're going to do is we're going to draw the outside of the neck that flares out, and then that's all that we're going to add for our final draw right now to our lizard. Okay, so what we want to do first is we're going to draw from the outside of our circle here. You're going to start inside of that oval. From the outside of the circle for the head, draw a curved line that comes up to the oval, and then right along the oval, you're just going to add little letter U's for those spikes around the top. And then once you reach the side, you're going to follow that line that comes down on the side, and then you can stretch it out a little bit more, and you can just add some curves. You can come outside of your oval a little bit. But you're just going to follow along that oval to help you draw the waves and the organic, irregular lines for that shape around the lizard's head. Okay? So I'm going to just draw this here around. And then once you reach the side, you're just going to, again, follow that shape up. And then you're going to draw those letter U's and connect back into the side of the head. Okay, and so that's what the oval helped us draw. So once you have these actual irregular lines for the contour of the outside of the head, then now what we can do is you can go ahead and erase just those orange lines that we actually no longer need. Okay, don't erase this inside circle just yet because we are still going to draw the head and details. but we're just going to focus on these contour lines, these outside lines for now. Then I'm going to, once you're done erasing, you can pause the video if you need some time to erase those extra lines. But once you're done erasing, you can press play. And I'm going to be going over our story structure chart so that we can start kind of adding some of those words outside in our background space. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and bring my story structure chart out. All right. So we already talked about our title. I've kind of brought it up a little bit. But for the first section of our story structure chart, we talk about our title and author. So our title, again, if you maybe missed it as I heard it earlier, or sorry, as I said it earlier, is holes. So we are going to be drawing some holes that our lizard lives in. And this lizard, this yellow spotted lizard, is actually a special character. It's not a main character. It's not a minor character. It's an animal that's in the book. And it's a fictional lizard, but that is a fun way to kind of bring out the descriptive language from the book. Again, it was a very lengthy read, so just kind of pointing out the different descriptive language that they use to describe the yellow spotted lizards would be fun to actually illustrate that in real life. Okay, so our title is Holes, and our author here is going to be Louis Sachar. Alrighty. Now for our characters, we have our main characters, minor characters. Minor characters can be like supporting characters or maybe antagonists. So for our main character, we basically only have one specific main character, and this is the character that the book follows throughout the whole story. It focuses in on this one character and his life. And this character's name is Stanley Yelnats. Now this is a fun name. It describes it in the book, but his name is super special because Stanley is actually Yelnats, which is his last name, spelled backwards. So if you want to go ahead and maybe write that out, you can figure that out. Or if you've read the book, then you may know this already and you can see it as it reads it out. But Stanley is Yelnats backwards. Yelnats is Stanley backwards. So that's a fun name that he has, Stanley Yelnats. And we also have some minor characters. Some may say that these are also main characters. I would definitely say at least one of them is a pretty big main character. He just comes a little bit later on in the book. But one of them is Stanley's friends that he meets at the lake that he has to go to, and that is Zero. Okay, and then later on they discover Stanley and Zero actually are connected in a way, and so we'll talk about that in a bit. But we also have our other campers, so those are some supporting characters, some turn antagonists. And then we have the warden, who is also an antagonist. And so we have some characters that, you know, kind of give Stanley a hard time. We understand now that antagonists are those types of characters that cause conflict, that the character, the main character, which would be Stanley, that he has to resolve or figure out or work through. And so we have a lot of characters in this book, but our main character is Stanley. We have Zero, and then we have the other campers, and we have the warden of the camp, Stanley's family. So there's many, many characters that we're introduced to. And there's also characters from history. So a lot of things to talk about when it comes to characters. Now, with just those things pointed out, our title and our characters, what you can do is you can take your pencil, and I'm actually going to take my pencil because you may not like the placement. Once everything is drawn out, you may want to change some of these things. So I recommend definitely using a pencil and pressing as lightly as possible in case you do need to erase. I'm going to use my pencil and press a little bit harder than normal just so you guys are able to see it. But you kind of want to point out where, or you want to point out these main points in your background area. So we have our title. You can kind of think about where in your background would you like the title to be placed. I did it for my sample here. I wrote holes inside the hole. I thought that was kind of clever. So if you'd like to do that as well, you can just very lightly write the name of the book, title of the book, holes, okay? And then once you have the title, then you can, you don't even have to add the title if you don't want to. You're mainly adding points that stand out to you, that are important to you, that are maybe your favorite parts of the book. So this is going to be strictly up to you and how you would like to incorporate what you've read into your artwork. Okay, so we have the title. Next are authors. We talked about Stanley, so if you'd like to write his name somewhere in the background, I'm going to go ahead and just write it up here. And you can write that as big or as small as you'd like. I'm going to keep mine small because we have small details in the background. And I want this not to really stand out. I want it to kind of blend into the background. Okay, so we have Stanley. We also have 0. And then you can also point out the subject that we are actually drawing. So in my sample here, you can see I wrote Stanley. I have yellow spotted lizards, so that may be a little hard to see, and then I have 0. Those are the main characters and points from the book that I want to point out in my artwork. But you can do this however you'd like, or you don't have to do it. You don't have to write these in. But this is just a way to kind of remember these points with our art. Okay, so you can write yellow spotted lizards. Okay, or you can write 0. You can write some of the other campers if they were maybe part of your favorite characters. If you want to go ahead and check out the book and see what those characters' names are, you can write them out. You can write our setting, which we'll talk about in just a moment. You can write about any other parts of the plot that stand out to you and that you think are important. Okay? So back to our story structure chart here. If you need a little bit more time to write out some of those stuff, definitely pause the video. But next we're going to talk about our setting. Now for our setting, we have one main setting that the story takes place in, where he meets all of most of the characters, and that is Camp Green Lake. Okay, so Camp Green Lake, sounds very pleasant, but then we realize right away that it is not as pleasant as it sounds. It is a camp in Texas, which is it has a desert. The lake is dried up, and there's just dirt everywhere, yellow spotted lizards everywhere. It's in the middle of nowhere, and these campers are basically kids, juveniles who have maybe done something bad, and so they come to this camp to kind of pay off or basically, it's hard to say this. So they pay off what they have done bad, or they do, it's like a consequence for something that they have done badly. Okay, so they come to this camp and they are asked, or not asked, they are made to dig holes. Okay, and so with digging the holes, that is kind of how the title of the book is brought about. It's holes, and I'm kind of getting into the plot a little bit here. So our setting is Camp Green Lake in Texas. It's not as pleasant as it sounds. It is a desert detention center for juveniles. Now for our plot, let's go into that. So for Stanley, he actually gets wrongfully accused of stealing shoes, and this happens because he and his family have a curse that is on their family line from their from his great grandfather, and so this is a family curse, and that's why he believes he has been wrongfully accused of stealing shoes. And so he ends up getting sent to the Camp Green Lake, which forces the children to dig the holes in the desert all day long. So there's barely any breaks, barely any water. This is how they are treated because of the bad things that they have done. And so they have to dig these holes in the desert. And Stanley actually comes to believe that it's not to build character as the warden and the supervisors that are watching them dig the holes. It's not to build character as they have said. Stanley comes to feel and realize that this is for a different and specific reason. There is a specific reason why they are asked to dig these holes, and he is starting to figure it out. Okay, so that's kind of where I'll end our plot there. We'll go ahead and talk about our climax, our solution, moral, and application in just a moment once we get about halfway into our project. So I'm going to go ahead and put my story structure chart away here. And again, we are going to be doing yellow-spotted lizards in the desert because that is our main setting and that is the habitat of these creatures. Now, these creatures are not real. We do not have yellow-spotted lizards in the world. They don't exist. We do have two very poisonous lizards in the world, but we're going to be doing our yellow-spotted lizard, which is fictional. We have a very descriptive idea of what our yellow-spotted lizard looks like, but as I said, if you have watched the movie, then you may have a better image for those than those who haven't watched the movie, because the movie displays their idea of what the yellow-spotted lizard looks like. So you can pull the ideas from the movie, or you can just use the descriptive language from the book. That's totally up to you. I'm going to be using the descriptive language from the book, and we are going to get in. So for the rest of our drawing, again, you should be using a pencil for all of these drawing steps. I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines better. And again, these orange lines are just to represent the basic shapes we started with. As I continue drawing and you see the black outline around the lines that you do want to keep, you're going to take your eraser, and I'll let you know when, but you're going to take your eraser and you're going to erase those extra lines that you no longer need. So we're going to, we left off at the head before we started talking about our chart. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with those details for the head of our lizard here. So what we want to start with first is our lizard has this area around its head that kind of flares out. So because it's flared out, usually that only happens if they feel threatened or they want to attack, anything like that. So because that's flared out, I'm actually going to be drawing the lizard with the mouth open. Now, as I said with these extra details along the body, if there's a specific lizard that you would like to draw instead, or there's a specific way you would like to draw your lizard, then you can go ahead and do that for the head and details as well. But I'm going to show you how to draw this lizard that I have for the yellow-spotted lizard. So for the mouth open, I'm going to start on the right side of the head, and I'm going to draw a line that comes in, and then I'm going to bring that down and back in for the back of the mouth. Then I'm going to curve that down and out and down, back over to the bottom of that circle there. And then I'm going to bring that outside of my circle, and then I'm going to match up these lines for the outside of the mouth there. But instead of just drawing a straight or a curved line, I'm actually going to show where the top and the bottom of the mouth are, where they open. So I'm going to draw a curved line that comes down and in, and then from that point I'm going to curve back down and out to connect to the bottom. So you should have this kind of curved line that meets in the middle, so it comes in a little bit on the outside edge. Okay, so now that you have the inside of the mouth there, we're going to start on the outer lip areas. So we're going to go from the top of the mouth. You're going to draw a curved line like a letter C at the very top. Bring that in, and you're going to follow the line from the mouth that we have here, and you're going to bring that in And then right as you touch the left side of our circle, you're going to curve that down. And then you're going to bring that in and following the bottom of the mouth here, down. And then we're just going to draw a curved line that comes out like a letter C for the bottom lip. Okay, so that's going to be for our mouth here. Now that we have that, we're going to draw the top of our face for the right side of the lizard. Again, this is showing the right side of the lizard. And so we see more of the legs on the right side, therefore we're going to see more of the face on the right side. So we're not going to really be able to see this left side here. Okay, so what we want to start with is on the left side of this top part of the mouth, you're going to draw a line that comes in and then up to touch the outside of that circle, and then you're going to curve it around. And that's going to be for part of the top of the eye. Okay, and then you're going to bring that in and in for the top part of the face there, the top part of the eye. And then underneath that, we're actually going to draw a circle for the outer eyelid of the eye. Then you're going to draw another circle toward the left edge. And then you're going to draw a smaller circle. And then you're going to draw an even smaller oval right inside. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ovals that kind of come into each other and get smaller and smaller as you go. We have our eyelid on the outside, then the pupil, and then the highlight of that pupil. Okay, so now that you have that, right from the bottom of the eye to the top of our outer edge of the mouth here, you're going to just draw a curved line. If you have the outside of the circle from the head, you can just follow that, but mine kind of comes in a little bit more, so you can do that as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to draw this the rest of the head here for the left side, but again, we're not going to see as much detail as we see for the right. So we're just going to draw a curved line like a rainbow that comes in. Okay, and then on the outside of that, you're going to draw a second rainbow for the left side of the top of the eye that you see here. It's just on the outside. And this is for the middle of the head. Okay, so once you have that, now we're just going to add in some details for the mouth. So we have the mouth that's stretching open. So we have the side of the mouth. Then we're going to draw the part of the tongue. So we're going to come in from the side of this mouth, draw a curved line like a rainbow. Bring it up a little bit, and then down. And then right where this point is in the middle where the mouth opens and closes, and that center line, you're going to draw a curved line down to connect to the mouth. And then you're going to do the same thing at the top. So you're going to start from the top of the lip and bring it down to the center line. So we have this back of the mouth here, the tongue, the side of the mouth where it stretches open, and then the other side of the mouth where it stretches open on that side. There's just a lot less that we see because we see more of the right. Now, all of this outer area here is the neck. So the neck that flares out. So we actually don't need to connect this head to anything because it is already connected to this neck area. So now that you have all of those details for the head, you can actually take your eraser and erase all of that extra circle line that we no longer need. So mine is shown by this orange line around my Sharpie lines. The Sharpie lines are the ones we want to keep. The orange lines are the lines we want to erase. So if you haven't also done that yet for the outer part of the head or the body, the oval for the body, take your eraser now and erase all of those lines that you no longer need. Those orange lines. Keep the hole there, but for your lizard, go ahead and erase those extra lines. Alright, so you can pause the video if you need more time, but once you're done erasing, go ahead and play, and we're going to move on to our next step. We're just going to add some extra details along the body. So we're going to go at the bottom of our little neck hooded area, and we're going to add a couple of lines to show where that area kind of wrinkles up. Since it's an excess part of skin, it's part of the neck that flares out. When it does stretch out, it might have some of those wrinkles that come out. And you can kind of follow some of those curve lines that you have that can help you draw those extra lines. You don't have to draw those details if you don't want. We can definitely add that as we shade as well. So if you would prefer to just wait, you can just leave those, you don't have to draw these lines. So now that I have that, let's see if there's any extra lines that we need to draw for our lizard here. I think we got it. I think we have all of our details. Now, our yellow spotted lizards are known to have exactly 11 spots on its body. I'm going to be adding those spots as we get into our coloring steps, but if you prefer to draw them out already, you can definitely add wherever you'd like along the body. Add 11 spots, only 11 spots. That's how our yellow spotted lizards are described, with 11 yellow spots. So you can go ahead and add that in. Just draw some ovals right along the body. As you show them a little bit further down, those would look much bigger than the ones that are higher up. And then you can definitely have some that crop off the top of the body. As you can see here, I have some that crop up the top, some that are toward the bottom. Those at the bottom are much bigger than the ones toward the top, and the ones that are cropped are just little half ovals attached to the top of the back of the body and the tail. All right. So now that we have the detail for our lizards and you've erased all of those lines, next what we're going to do is we're going to add just a few details in the area in the background. So since this is a desert, we don't really see too much detail, just a lot of dirt. You may see some rocks, you may see some dried up plants. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of those details that I would like to draw. I'm going to add a few rocks, I'm going to add a few plants. But you can add any other details that you want. If you want to draw a smaller lizard toward the background, you can definitely draw another lizard in the back. If you want to add maybe a different object from the book, you can definitely do that. If it describes any objects in the desert that you would like to add into your background, go for it. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and just start with some rocks. Now, as you can see in my sample here, for the rocks, what I've done is I've actually used those rocks for the parts of my book that I wanted to incorporate in my artwork. Okay, so I'm going to basically make it look as if the characters' names or those points that I've written out on my paper, I'm going to make it look like they're on the rocks. So with that said, you can take wherever you placed your words and you can go around it, make some rock objects or some other objects that you want the words to be incorporated on. Now, if you drew yours, maybe if you wrote out your words maybe a little bit too big or maybe a little too small, and now you would like them to be incorporated on the rocks or on another object, since you did this in pencil and you hopefully did it very light, you can definitely erase it, add your objects, and then place the words on top, so that way you can have a better way to go about adding in those words. So with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and start adding in my rocks. Now, rocks are going to be irregular shapes because they are objects in nature. Nature objects usually have these irregular shapes here. Now, to make it look like it's sitting on the ground, you want to have the bottom of the rock pretty flat. Okay, it can have some wobbly, shaky lines to show that it's irregular, but you want it to look like it's sitting on the ground, so it should be pretty flat. Okay. Group of rocks there. Maybe a rock toward the bottom here, like a little plant. on the side. And then another rock down there. Okay, and again, you can add as many rocks as you'd like. You can do whatever you want for this extra step. Now, to show you that I'm going to keep these lines here for the hole, I'm going to just draw them again using my Sharpie so that way you know those lines we want to keep. You're not outlining it, you already have it drawn, so don't worry about that. I'm just making it a little bit clearer to let you guys know I'm keeping those lines. Okay? So once you have added in the area in the background, don't worry too much about other smaller areas like maybe piles of dirt or little pieces of dried up grass that kind of appear outside of the dirt. Don't worry about those. We can definitely add those, add in some more detail with our color pencils as we add in shading and detail. So just add larger objects like your rocks or maybe larger plants, any things like that. And then once you have those objects in your background, then that is going to be the end of your final draw. Now, before you finish up your drawing, again, just make sure you have erased those lines from our basic shapes that you no longer need. So that's going to be the circle for the head, the oval for the outside of the head, and the oval for the body. All of these orange lines on my paper are lines that you do not need to keep on your drawing. So make sure to erase those lines. And if you need that time, you can definitely pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and all right, everyone. So actually, before we get started with our coloring steps, we are going to just talk a little bit more about the rest of our story structure here. So we ended off where, in our plot, where Stanley has had to go to Camp Green Lake. They are forced to dig holes, and Stanley is figuring out that digging the holes is not just to build character, as the warden and the workers say to the children. He is figuring out that it is for a different and more specific reason. So we come to our climax where Zero ends up running away, and so Stanley runs away to go find Zero, and they are out in the desert alone with each other. He ends up finding Zero, and so they're out in the desert alone with each other, and basically this is where they, start to discover and find out that they are connected. So Stanley has his story with his family being cursed because of his great-great-grandfather, and Zero is actually connected to the woman who cursed the family. So we're at the climax. They're in the desert together, and then they come to a point where they're very dehydrated. They're out in the desert in the middle of nowhere. They don't have anything. They find this desolate, abandoned area, and they find some treasures that may be from something in history that connects both of their family. So they get to this point where Zero is so dehydrated and he needs to drink water. And so Stanley helps him by carrying him up a hill to go get water. And they discover that this actually is what breaks the curse. They don't discover this right away as he's carrying him up, but the curse of the family was brought upon them because the woman asked the great-great-grandfather that if she were to basically help him get his bride, the woman that he loved, that he would need to repay her by carrying her up this large mountain. He never went back. He never repaid his debt, and so she cursed the family. So they figure this out because Stanley ends up having to carry Zero up the mountain and because he's dehydrated, he needs water. And so, by helping Zero survive, they break the curse and they uncover that this woman from history called Kissing Kate, or Kate Barlow, they discover her treasure, and they figure out that this is actually what the warden and all of the campers are digging up to find. And so, since they have discovered it, they actually escape with it, and the warden is exposed. And all is solved, so that's kind of in our solution here. All is solved. The curse is no longer a thing. It's broken because Stanley has helped Zero up the hill, and since Zero's ancestor is the woman, that helps break the curse. They find this out because they're laying down, surrounded by all of these yellow spotted lizards that we have here, and they're afraid. They don't move at all. They're afraid that this might be the end, because the yellow spotted lizards are a deadly poisonous animal. So they figure it's the end, but then once they fall asleep and they wake up totally fine the next morning, Stanley discovers that the curse is no longer a thing. It is broken, and it is told to us that the reason why it is broken is because Stanley helped Zero survive. And so they come to the solution. They escape with Kate Barlow's treasure, and that takes us to the end of the book. And so that is our climax and solution. Now, the moral of the story, we kind of have this main theme that has to do with like luck and fate. So Stanley knows his family is cursed. They have bad luck. He is struck by this bad luck by falsely being accused of stealing shoes. And so this makes us think about, how luck and fate play a role in our lives. Okay, this also helps us learn. The book also helps us learn about relationships and friendships, and maybe holding up your end of the deal, keeping your word, so that way maybe your family won't be cursed. But most importantly, friendship, how to take care of others, how to build your relationships. And so there's a lot of that goes along with Stanley and Zero's relationship. And so that's a really important thing to take from this story. Now, a way that I would like you to kind of apply this into your life is by thinking of anything that you can do to help or protect your friends. If you were with us in our project for the Chronicles of Narnia, we talked a little bit about some brave stories and how maybe some of us may have had to protect some friends. And so you can kind of think about that for this project and this application. But you can also think in the future. What are some ways that you can help and protect your friends now? Is there something that they need help with? Is there something that you can help, like give advice to them for? So think of ways that you can be, if you're a great friend, think of ways that you can maybe be a better friend, or ways that you can help that maybe you didn't think of right away. So it's always nice to think deeply about ways to better your relationship with your friends and those around you, because they are very important people. They help you build your character and your life as you grow up. You may not always have the same friends, but they were important to you at one point in your life, and they have helped you become the person that you are. So friends and relationships are super important in our lives. So I recommend that you apply this story into your own life and think about how you can do that to build a better relationship with your friends. All right, so with that said, yellow spotted lizards. So I'm going to put my chart away, And we're going to actually pull a little description from our book. If you have the book with you, you can find the description yourself, or you can just follow along with me as I point it out. But our yellow-spotted lizards, I believe it's in chapter 9 or 10, when it is described, yellow-spotted lizards are yellow-green lizards with exactly 11 yellow spots. They have bright red eyelids and yellow eyes. They also have black teeth and a milky white tongue. All right, so that's some descriptive language that we have to describe what the yellow-spotted lizard looks like. So using that description, we're going to use our colors to color that in. So we're going to be using our watercolors first to start with the base layer. So we have yellow-green lizard. We're just going to color in the lizard with some yellow-green, just a little bit of yellow toward the bottom of our areas here. And then we're going to paint in our background, which is going to be the desert, so it's going to be brown mostly. Our hole is going to be a little bit darker, but that's how we're going to paint in with our watercolors. Now, if you don't have watercolors, you're going to use the best material that you do have for those larger areas. And so just do your best and follow along. So I'm going to go ahead and take my large brush here. It's my 3/4 inch, not yet a 1 inch, not quite 1 inches, but it is the largest brush that I have. So I'm going to get some water, and I'm going to start on painting in my lizard here. So we want a yellow-green if you would like. If you don't have a yellow-green, you can take a regular green and a yellow and mix those together. But I have a yellow-green here, so I'm going to take some of that, and I'm going to go ahead and color in my lizard here. Now, we are coloring in yellow-spotted lizards because we're inspired by the project, but if you would prefer to make your own type of lizards and not do a yellow-spotted lizard, you don't have to. You can basically color in your lizard however you'd like. But if you would like to stay true to the book, then you can just follow along with me as I color this in. So I'm just taking my yellow-green. Now for your final paper, we've already been drawing and we're starting coloring, but you do want to make sure this is a good enough paper for your watercolor step. If you started watercolor already and it's not holding the water, your paper is not holding the water the way it should, if it's just kind of going right through, if it's ripping your paper, that's not a good paper to use watercolor on. So you can pause the video and get out a better paper for your final color and drawing. But you should have had some thick paper on hand. All right, so you want to make the color of your lizard a little bit darker toward the top, and then we're going to get it to be a little bit lighter at the bottom, because then we're going to add in some yellow at the bottom. And that's for the body. You can actually get the legs to be a little dark as well. You can use the tip for smaller areas, or you can switch to a smaller brush. So we've already started coloring, but you should have noticed that we did not outline. I just had a pre-drawn sample over here of everything that you guys should have from your final draw. Because whenever you use watercolor, it's totally fine and you're able to use Sharpie to outline on your drawing. but it's all really up to preference. Sometimes it may look a little bit better without an outline. And so that's what we're doing here. We're not using an outline. If you would prefer and you want to outline for coloring, then you can definitely do that as well. But I think it looks really clean when it's just the materials and not necessarily an outline. Outlines look really good for cartoon subjects, but if you're not doing a cartoon subject, then you might be better off without outlining. So now I'm going to take my light green. I'm going to make the top of my head here a little bit darker and then fade it out at the bottom to get a little bit lighter. And I want to do that because I want to add in some yellow in a bit. So I don't want it to get too dark because then you won't be able to see the yellow areas. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more of this yellow green for the top part of this area, and then fade that out. And you can also add in some of that green. I'm going to actually switch to a smaller brush because we have smaller details here. So I have a 1/2 inch brush now. I'm going to take some of that yellow green and add it in to my lizard's face. The lips. Now I don't want to add anything into the inside of the mouth just yet. And then anytime you're making a base layer with watercolors, it's always best just to work as light as possible. You can always make your colors darker, but it's super hard once you have a very dark color to get it lighter and build layers. So it's always best just to start out lighter, especially if you're just working on a base layer. You can definitely work on some shading with your watercolors, but we are also going to be shading in with our color pencils, so it's not super important if you absolutely can't or don't shade with your watercolors. Okay, so again, I'm just leaving the inside of the mouth unpainted with the green. So that's all. I have this back leg here, so don't want to forget that. I'm going to paint that in. Again, it's just a base layer, so it doesn't necessarily need to be any darker than any other areas. Just get it all one color the best that you can, and then we can add shading and details with our color pencils. So once you have that lizard painted in, you can go ahead and clean off your brush. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to color in our background. So I'm going to go back to my large brush over here, and I'm going to take some brown, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint in my large background area. Now, I recommend going around your rocks, if you added rocks or your large objects, the best that you can. If you accidentally color inside, again, your base color should be light enough that any layers you add on can cover it, and you can make it darker with a different color. So just do the best that you can to go around it. I have a little bit coming inside of the rock, but that's all fine. Again, it should be light enough to where it's not going to really matter or show once it's all dried up. But you do want to make sure you go very carefully around your lizard. Best that you can. It's Always definitely recommended that whenever you're painting, you have a paper towel close by. So that way, if you get a little bit too much water close to your subject or too much water in one specific area to like a big puddle, you want to spread that out or you want to blot it so that way it doesn't sit in one spot and um, leave a hole in your paper. Okay. Now I recommend making the bottom of your dirt a little bit darker because it is closer to you, so you're going to be able to see a lot more of this bottom area. So you can kind of create like a gradient going from dark to light, from the bottom to the top. And then our hole here is going to be a brown as well. So if you accidentally or if you want to just cover all of it, you definitely can. I'm just going to be painting around it. Since it is a large enough area, I don't necessarily need to care about painting over it. It's large enough that I can hop around it. Again, you want to be careful around the lizard's legs and body. Use the tip of your brush. I'm just going right around the edge, but I'm not covering too much of my hole there. Picking up some of these puddles, spreading them out to other areas of my paper. Alright, so once you're done painting in the ground of the desert and the background, then we're going to go ahead and paint in our large oval for the hole. Just double check for any white areas, any spaces in the background that need to be filled in or spread out if you have puddles, or covered up around the edges. But once you are done with that background, next what we're going to do is we're going to take our brown, and we're going to go just around the outside edge. Now you want this area to be just a little bit darker than the rest of your ground dirt. So I'm going to pick up some of this dark brown here. Less water, more paint in order to make it a little bit darker. If you go outside of your lines a little bit, that's fine. The goal of using watercolors without an outline is that we don't see our pencil lines. It's just our areas and subject is just created by the edges of our colors. So if you accidentally go outside of your pencil lines, that's okay. Those should be covered up, and all you see is your color anyways. So I'm just making that outer edge a little bit darker. Okay, and once you have that a little bit darker, then what you can do is you want to get a very, very dark brown to where it's almost black. Now, if you don't have a very dark brown, then what you can do is take just a very, very tiny amount of black and mix that in with some brown. Okay, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do that over here. I'm going to get some brown and mix that into some black here, just a little amount of black. Get my brown. And so I'm going to be making a very dark brown. That's essentially what I'm going to make here. Okay, so I added it in a little palette here. And so what you want to do for that is you want to fill in the inside of your hole. Now I have a word in here. So if you have a word in here like me, it's not going to be the best idea to try and go around the word. I recommend just painting right on top of it. Okay, and then I'll show you what we can do to bring back that word later, like I have done for my sample. Now this is a dark brown, but it's still pretty light because there's a lot of water on my brush. So I'm going to try and get some of that water off. I'll wipe it off. I'm going to go back in and pick up more of the color. Add another layer on top. Okay, now I think this could be a little bit darker, so I'm actually going to take just a little bit of black and then spread that out. And then if it's still not dark enough, that's where our color pencils come in. We use our color pencils for those dark shaded detail areas that we maybe weren't able to get with our watercolors. Because watercolors normally are always going to be just a little bit lighter since they have water in it. Okay, so you can make that as dark as you can get it. Don't make it pure black. I want to get it to be a dark brown. Okay, and once you have the color that you would like, you can go and clean off your brush. Don't forget to clean off the palette if you used one. And then that is going to be all we need for our watercolors. Okay, so next we're going to be using color pencils. You want to make sure that your watercolors are fully and completely dry before you start your color pencils, especially in those areas that you had to use a lot of water. If you use color pencil over that, it will rip. So make sure that your paper is fully. All right, everyone, we just finished up our project, and that was a very hardworking, long project for us to do, just like it was reading our book, very long book. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. We learned a lot of different points from the book, our main characters. We learned about the book holes. So our main character was Stanley Yelnats. He also met Zero. The main setting was Camp Green Lake, which boys are sent to as campers for, doing something bad. And Stanley is wrongfully accused of stealing shoes. So we learn all of that, our main points from the book. I hope you guys, if you haven't read it yet, I hope you guys were interested enough to want to read it after the class. And I really hope you enjoyed today's project. We did a yellow-spotted lizard, which is a direct animal and creature from the book. It's a fictional creature, but we used the descriptive language from the book to create it from our own minds. Or if you have a more of an image from the movie, that might have helped you. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed the class. Stay tuned for more of our projects. We'll see you soon. Thank you.